Hi, welcome to this page of the notes. I'm actually going to get started on this page in just a second. Real quick, I just want to make one further note about the previous page. So if you jump back to the previous page, we did this last problem where we got 6x minus 8y, and I had somebody ask a really good question about this. I just want to point it out. What they said is, hey, I have a 6 and an 8, and those share a common factor of 2. And so what they wanted to do is go ahead and pull a 2 out. And what that does is that leaves them with a 3x minus 4y. Now, yes, this is a perfectly acceptable answer. But what I asked you to do in this problem was I asked you to simplify. And remember, one of the keys to simplifying is that you need to get rid of all of the grouping symbols. And actually what you've done to go from 6x minus 8y to this step here is you have introduced grouping symbols. And so based on our definition of simplifying, which is to get rid of grouping symbols, this actually would not be in simplest form because I have grouping symbols in my answer. So we are going to stop here, 6x minus 8y. Please do not factor out that 2. This is no longer simplified. There will be times in this class where you will need to be able to do this, but not here. When the directions say simplify, you need to get rid of all of the grouping symbols, and please don't put any grouping symbols back. Now let's jump back to this last page here in our notes. We are working on using properties of real numbers to evaluate expressions, and this goes back to actually the division by zero property that I mentioned to you guys when we were looking at properties of real numbers. And what this one says is that anytime you have an expression, which we have, that looks like a fraction, which we have, the denominator cannot be 0. You cannot divide by 0 because division by 0 is undefined. So here's what we're going to do. Let me highlight this stuff for you. I am going to ask you to use the division by 0 property to determine what values are restricted. Restricted simply meaning the values of x that you are not allowed to use. All right, you cannot use these values of x. Let's do a quick mental exercise here just to help you maybe understand this a little better. Let's say I just off the top of my head, we're going to make x a -1. Now if I were to plug a -1 in for x, let's go ahead and do a little bit of mental math. -1 minus 4 gets me a -5. What that does is that leaves me with 34 on the top, -5 in the bottom. Can I divide 34 by a -5? The answer is yes. All right, it's not going to be a nice, neat number. It's going to be a decimal, but you can divide 34 by a -5. So what that means is -5 is okay. It's a value I'm allowed to plug in for x. Let's try another one just off the top of my head. Let's try 0. If I were to plug a 0 in for x, let's go ahead and do a little bit of quick mental math here. 0 minus 4, of course, gets me -4. The question is, can I divide 34 by a -4? And again, the answer is yes. It's not going to come out to be a nice number, but you could use your calculator, figure out what that decimal is, and 34 is divisible by a -4. So it turns out that x equal to 0 is okay. That's allowed. What I'm asking you to do is figure out what value of x is restricted. What value of x is not allowed. And our division property, our division by 0 property says the denominator cannot be 0. So that's exactly what we're going to do. I'm going to take my denominator, x minus 4. I'm going to set it equal to 0, and I'm going to solve. So let's go ahead and give that a try. I take x minus 4. Oh, sorry, hold up. That's my highlighter. Wrong. Where's my pen? There's my pen. I'm going to take x minus 4. I'm going to set it equal to 0. Solve for x. Well, I add a 4 to both sides. I get x is equal to 4. Let's check that. What happens if I plug a positive 4 in for x? Well, 4 minus 4 is 0. Can I divide 34 by 0? The answer is no. And even if you forget that division by 0 is not allowed, go ahead and plug it into your calculator. Your calculator will absolutely freak out, lose its mind. It's going to give you a syntax error, right? And hopefully that should be the little reminder, oh, that's right, I can't divide by 0. So it turns out that for this problem, pick any value of x you want to, any real number. You can come up with any crazy number you want. You can plug that in for x. Pick any number. It'll work, except for positive 4. This value is restricted. It is not allowed to be used in this problem because it gives you division by 0. So let's go ahead and put that. This is my answer. This is my restricted value. Let's go ahead and try the next ones, see how these go. I have a 3a minus 2 over 5 plus a. We're going to do this exactly the same way we did the last one.